In my previous video I finished building this Pantorouter XL, and in this video I'll focus on accuracy and improvements. The machine works fine as it is for joints like this one, but when I cut this particular joint I ran into a bit of a problem and I had to give it slack to make it fit. If you look closely here you can see this tenon is more this way and this one more this way, and so it appears that these tenons are a little bit closer together than the mortises, even though on the templates they're both spaced the same. So somewhere on this pantograph mechanism I have a very slight geometry error. Before taking it apart I'm just going to check some alignment here. So I put in a 1/4 inch shaft in the router and that appears to be level with the table. Now let's check for squareness. And it looks like there's a much bigger gap here than here. So the table is not quite perpendicular to how the router moves. Checking that with the plunge, you can see the shaft moves side to side a little bit as I plunge. So the router's axis is also not entirely parallel to the main pivot down here. So I think it's best if I take it all apart and check each component individually. It's important that the shafts are parallel and the links have no twist to them. So by placing two parallel rails on a flat surface, I can check for twist. And let's see. Oh, it does rock back and forth a little bit. I have about 10 thou worth of rocking. That's a 1/4 millimeter, which I'm not sure if that's serious enough to fix it. And checking distance. 36 centimeters on the dot here. Checking this link, it has some rocking as well. In fact, more than the other link, and given that it's a shorter link, this is actually more severe. And checking the distance, I've got 18 centimeters and 1/2 millimeter, so that's a bit far out. Ooh, this is about 1.5 millimeters too wide here. That could be a serious problem. And this operating lever has also got quite a bit of twist to it. Easily 13 thou, so that's the most severe one, but I want to rebuild this one anyways to make it a bit sturdier. I just whittled some 3/16 section octagonal stock, and that'll be good for plugging some of those holes so I can re-drill them. So I've plugged up and flush cut the holes and marked where they're supposed to go. And now the challenge is to make sure that the drill is going to go exactly in here and not wander. So I'll punch a divot in the middle. And now I'm going to put this drilling guide on top of it, but how to center it. So I'm going to put the drill in it that the drilling guide uses, and now I can use the point of that drill to line up my drill guide exactly with the hole. And I'll just clamp that in place. That looks like it worked, so I won't have to make a new part. This hole here is now plugged, and now I need to mark that in such a way that I have no twist in here. So I've got the 3/16 inch drill, and I'm just going to use the point of it to mark where that needs to be so that it's level with the other holes. This hole was only about 13 thou, or about 1/3 of a millimeter off from where it was supposed to be, so it's probably a bit nitpicky trying to fix it. Well, it still rocks, but only by about 3 thou, so I'll call that close enough. This is the operating lever, and aside from having a bit of twist with the shafts in here, I got the hole here a little bit crooked, And when I was using it, I could tell there's a little bit of twisting flex in this lever. So I updated the design and I added this extension to the plywood here, which would be right here. And here's the dimensions for it. So I'm going to make this one. The style of construction of this link is just like the links I made in a previous video, so I'm not going into full details on how to make them this time. It's a lot of tweaking and rework, but hopefully yours will be more accurate to begin with, especially if you're not trying to make video at the same time. To make sure these holes line up correctly with this shaft in place, I put the screws in the holes with this thing clamped on here, and I just whack both of them, and that marks exactly where the holes need to be drilled. I figured out why the main pantograph axis down here was not perpendicular to the table. It's because this whole thing has got a bit of play in it, like so, when I loosen the nuts, and when I tighten them down for the tracks here, I just had it a little bit crooked. So I just have to make sure that as this goes in and out, this stays constant, and then tighten the nuts again. And if I move the plunge sled in and out now, it doesn't move, so that's very parallel. Probably more so than it needs to be. I've just taken the machine completely apart again for varnishing, and one of the things I still need to do is to attach some dust guards here, like these ones here. Basically 2 pieces of wood alongside the track, and that helps dust from getting into here. After that, I varnished everything, and I had a time-lapse camera going at the same time, and it's kind of fun to watch, though varnishing itself is really not that interesting. When I initially put this together, I had these guys parallel and screwed down, and these ones loose so that the top would adapt to the bottom rails. But now that I've got these dust guards in place, I can no longer hook these spacers on here to make sure these are parallel. So what I've done instead is to ensure these ones are parallel and locked down, and these ones are loose, so these ones will adapt. And I'm adding just a wee bit of oil to the track. I figure the lighter oil will make the glides run easier. I gotta make a dust guard for here, and I'm just gonna mark where I need to cut out. And I made another one of these rails to go on the front. I made another time lapse of assembling it all, which is a bit more interesting than varnishing. What was particularly satisfying is when I put the pantograph together, the last hole of the last shaft that I inserted aligned within a millimeter, so I think I had that pantograph just about right now. I think that solved my distortion issue.